You are listening to Woodland Walks, a podcast for the Woodland Trust, presented by Adam Shaw. We protect and plant trees for people, for wildlife.
Well, I've come to the north to talk about the Northern Forest Project, which is an enormous thing. And I've come to Smithills Hall Historic House. It's a sort of a little Tudor-looking house to meet two people who are going to show me round part of this estate and talk about the enormous project that is the Northern Forest and what it means to this part of the country, and indeed how exciting it is. So I'm going to meet Gemma Wren from the National Trust and Jess Thompson from something called City of Trees, and they're going to show me around, and we're going to talk a bit about the Northern Forest Project and what it means to the region. And I'm meeting them in the car park. So they're just ahead of me, and there's a dog. We're going walking with a dog. It's so exciting. Right, Gemma.
Hello.
Hello. And Jess, hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi. And we have a third partner in our walk
She's
today.
not going to say very much, but
Will we not get a bark?
if there's a squirrel to chase, we might.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should explain, this is not a person that we're talking about. This is a dog. What's the dog's name?
Luna.
Luna. Hello, Luna. All right. Does anyone know where we're going? All right. Let's start. So, which one of you wants to explain to me what on earth the Northern Forest is?
I suppose the way of thinking about it, really, is you think about all of the trees and woods around you. So that's every single tree that you can think of and you see in your day-to-day life. So if you take that picture and you use your imagination to think about that landscape, starting in Liverpool and ending in Hull, in a big strip across the north of England, that's essentially what we're talking about in terms of the Northern Forest. So it's not a destination woodland necessarily, it's all of the trees that we see around ourselves every day.
So it's not right to think of it as, oh, we're going to the Northern Forest like you might go to the New Forest near Southampton or anything. It's much more a sort of description of all the wooded landscape in this part of the country. Is that fair?
It is, and it's beyond wooded. So if you think about even the trees that you see on your street, around the schools, the kind of odd bits of quite scrappy, quite frankly, green space that you get in the urban environment, all of those things count. When it was first launched, there was a bit of criticism, and I think somebody described it as it being a green doily. And
It's really unkind. Why on earth was it a green doily?
Well, I think that was a sort of a criticism to say, well, it will always be a doily, you'll always have holes in it, it won't be one big woodland. But actually, it is a doily, and that's fine.
You're embracing you're in a doily, I can see.
Absolutely, yes. Okay. Yeah.
And tell me a bit about your organisation and why it's involved, or how it's involved in all of this.
So, I work for City of Trees, and City of Trees effectively is the Greater Manchester bit of the Northern Forest. So we're all about planting trees across Greater Manchester. We look after woodlands and green space. And the third thing that we do, which is really important, is involving people in all of that.
And how do you do that?
Well, for the general public, we have a programme called Citizen Forester, and that's where people come down to their local green space, they put the wellies on, they get hands muddy, and they'll either plant some trees or they'll help to look after a bit of woodland or green space or the greenness in their neighbourhood, whatever that is.
I don't mean to panic us, but this path just seems to come to an end. You think it goes around the corner? Okay, fair enough. Just led me down a sort of dead end. That was a quick walk. Okay, brilliant. Now, Gemma, I mean, you're from the National Trust. What's your particular interest in this project then?
So at the minute I'm working on a partnership with Yorkshire Water. where we're looking at how the National Trust and Yorkshire Water can come together to improve their land management across Yorkshire. But using that also to look at how we engage with people of Yorkshire around the land that we own and how important that is for them. So the water that comes from that land, the trees that grow on that land, and the benefits that that provides.
Look, there's a sign that says footpath. Whoops, that's not Luna. That's a bit of an aggressive farm dog. Look how well behaved Luna, completely ignoring that, just going, well, I don't get involved in that sort of nasty barking. No. This partnership that the Trust has with Yorkshire Water, how novel... Sorry, just almost fell over. How novel is that?
It's a fairly unique thing. So it's been in the making for a few years, but I think it's sort of two big organisations coming together who have similar objectives for their land. So their land delivers benefits for people, for wildlife, and the environment as a whole.
So in practical terms, what is it that you're doing together then?
So a lot of what we're looking at is around peatland restoration for lots of reasons, to hold water back and to improve the wildlife, the habitats for the wildlife that live there. But also we're looking at quite a big woodland creation project between us, which links into the Northern Forest area.
You say that it's almost sort of, I can't tell you about the details. I'd have to kill you then. So can you tell me about the details of this big woodlands project? By the way, we've all come to a stop because I think collectively we don't know where to go. Okay, you're pointing. Just me that doesn't know where to go. Okay, tell me about this big woodland project then.
Yeah, so between us, we've identified about 1,600 hectares of land that we can use to plant trees on. It's about putting the right trees in the right place.
Going to have to cross the sty. Yeah. We can't talk, hold microphone and get a dog over all at once. God, look, she's good at getting over that. So I always think I look really elegant and macho. And then when I see a picture of myself, I look like a very old man stumbling across stuff. It's good. It's just, how revolutionary do you think this project is going to be for the environment around here?
Well, it really is the biggest environmental projects that we've got, certainly in England at the moment. So, it's a fantastic pact, if you like, between organisations to pledge to do their utmost to try and increase tree cover. This really is ultimately, it's about improving the quality of life for people. Right. That's what community forestry is all about, really. So if there's absolutely tons and tons of evidence to show that we need that contact with the natural world on a daily basis, which is why every single tree counts wherever you live.
And I mean, there is lots of natural world around us in this part of the country. Are people just not engaging with it, do you think?
So where we are now, we're on the upland fringes of Greater Manchester, which is absolutely lovely. And, you just think you were immersed in deep countryside right now, wouldn't you? And I think what you're talking about is quite a complex thing, really. So I think for many people who live around here specifically, everybody will know about this absolutely lovely path that we're walking down now. But perhaps less so in other parts of Manchester, that there are these opportunities actually within Greater Manchester. So you don't have to go out to the Peak District or the Lake District, as lovely as they are, but you don't have to go that far to get this kind of hit of the countryside.
Do you notice, I wonder if either of you sort of feel that things are changing? I mean, you talk about us being disconnected from the natural world, and that's something we hear a lot about.
Yeah.
Do you feel that things are changing, either of you, now that there's a demand to be reconnected?
Yes, I would say the most striking thing for me that I've noticed, I would say really recently, within the last 2 years, 3 years, is that we've got young people, young adults, are more switched on now. So people in their early 20s are really conscious about their lifestyle choices, around sustainability, about what they're eating. Never before have we had people in their really early 20s really interested.
Right. Gemma, I mean, you come from a very big organisation, the National Trust. Do you see the same sort of thing? Do you see a change in the demographic of people who are engaging in this topic, excited by it?
I think we do. I think I echo what Jess said. There is a lot of interest, particularly from that younger generation. I think the National Trust as an organisation has always had people engaged who have been interested in the outdoors. But I think that perception is changing of what the National Trust actually does in that space.
Well, in what way is it changing? What's changing about our perceptions of what the Trust does?
I think the Trust had a refocus of it. It's always been an organisation that's owned a lot of land for the benefit of the nation, so for everybody. And in the past it's been seen as an organisation that just looked after historic houses.
Yeah.
So it's been a real shift for the organisation to push that land side of things. And I think with that, with the whole climate emergency agenda, all those things are pushing those conversations to the front of people's minds.
Right. I mean, you both sound very positive.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just and we are, and it is positive. However, you have hit the nail on the head there. It is still very much down to demographics, and we have an awful lot of people who are disconnected from the natural world, or don't see themselves as being that person that goes out and does something active in a natural setting, or the countryside, or the local green space. And that's a real issue. That's there's all sorts of the other context to this, certainly within Greater Manchester, is that there's a lot of people who aren't active enough, and that's having a really really bad impact on their physical health, also mental health. The other thing that is not so positive and very worrying is children's disconnection with the natural world. I think that's down to lots of things. It's down to a perception of whether it's safe to go outside and play on your own or with your friends. It's about competing with all of that more you might see more exciting electronic media. And child obesity is a real problem, and I think that is due to lack of play and lack of play opportunities. And part of that will be about the fact that, I think anyway, is about having that disconnection and the opportunity to run around in a natural setting and connect back.
I mean, I live in the Lake District and spend a lot of time out on the hills, out running with the dog, and on some days you can run somewhere and not see anyone else, and some days and you think, oh, actually that could be a bad thing if something happened to me, but equally it's a great thing because I've got all of this amazing space to myself.
That's what City of Trees is all about, is making sure that everybody has an opportunity for that nature connectedness on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, we're at this particular place, but is there any part of where you live that is very special to you? Any part of nature or woodlands or anything that holds something meaningful for you in particular?
Yeah, I have sort of special places, I suppose, at different points in your life. You have them, don't you? For me, so I live in South Manchester, and it's about a 10-15 minute walk to the Mersey Valley, which is basically a river valley, an urban river valley. It's right next to the motorway, the M60, but you wouldn't know. You can hear it, but it's a great example of community forestry. It's really well used, so you can walk for miles and miles and miles, and it's just there. It's on my doorstep, and I use that. It's a real asset to me, and also that the community that spans on either side of that river valley. Yeah.
I brought us to a stop because, yet again, I don't know where I'm going. Ruth, who refuses to speak, but is standing around taking photos, is directing us back. So there we are. Have we lost Luna?
Oh.
And she was so well behaved, and now she's disappeared. This is an enormous project. Is there anything which worries either of you, really, about why it might not happen, or the big thing you've got to overcome to get a project like this actually off the ground? Gemma?
I think so. For the work that we're doing in Yorkshire, a lot of the land that we own is in the uplands. And it has special qualities for lots of other reasons. So actually trying to get trees in the ground in those places can be really, really difficult. In some places, those sites are really badly damaged from past management. And it's sort of where do we kind of get to the point where we say, actually, that habitat's never going to recover. Can we do something different here that will be more resilient for the future, that will still retain carbon, still help protect water, keep water on the landscape rather than in the towns and flooding. So can we use trees here in a different way? And those conversations are quite complex. I think there's a very challenging conversation to be had around what do our future landscapes look like, and how do we best manage them to be resilient to climate change and all the other challenges we're going to face in the future.
So, is there anything you think worries you that you go to bed and like going, gosh, that's an issue we've really got to solve before we get this project nice and completed?
Yes, we've got to unlock an awful lot of land to be able to plant all of these trees. And, you know, there is...
So what does unlocking land mean?
I suppose have landowners agree that they want to have trees planted on their land.
So it's not about owning the land. It's more just a case of persuading others.
Yes. One of the other things that's a big challenge that we're constantly faced with is around maintenance of trees, particularly the schemes that we do in the urban setting. But we're really keen to try and get as many people involved in maintaining their local green spaces, so that becomes less of an issue.
And in practical terms, what does that actually mean then when you say, getting people involved in maintaining the trees? What does that mean?
So from the City of Trees perspective, that is our Citizen Forester programme.
Okay, let's say I want to be a citizen's forester. Sounds a good job.
Yeah.
It's a nice pastime, that. So I call you up and say, right, you've got another volunteer. What do I do tomorrow? What does that actually involve in my daily life?
Well, you can, however much time you have that you want to spend on this. So some people might just do it once a year. And some people might want to do it every Wednesday or every evening. And we would say, well, come and contact us and we'll let you know about citizen forester activity in your area. Or have you got an idea for a place and space that needs some TLC?
So what sort of activities might that involve?
Yeah, so that might involve planting some trees, things like clearing, thinning trees. So we actually do cut down trees. It's about, sorting out litter picking, about improving pathways, some Himalayan balsam bashing.
That sounds fantastic. What is Himalayan balsam bashing? You've got to just tell me about that, and then we're going to cross this sty, but tell me what that is.
Himalayan balsam is an invasive species, and it's got quite strong smell and a pink and white flower, and you see it virtually everywhere in the urban environment, particularly around watercourses. And so there's a job to try and get that under control, and it's actually really satisfying and easy to do. It's not like knotweed where you have to dig down to Middle Earth. You can basically just pull these quite large shoots out from the ground, and but it's something you have to do again and again and again to get on top of it. So it's not really wanted. However, bees love it. So there's always there's always two sides to every story.
There's a T-shirt in that. I'm a Himalayan balsam basher. I'm going to have that made up for Christmas. All right, let's try and get over this sty. Well, I'm going to leave Gemma Wren from the National Trust and Jess Thompson from City of Trees, and actually I'm heading inside to speak to Darren Moorcroft. Now, he's the Chief Executive of the Woodland Trust. He can't join me in person, so I'm speaking to him from his home on the phone. Hi, Darren.
Hi Adam, how you doing?
All right, you?
Yeah, good.
So once he got settled, I asked him to give me a sense of just how big a project the Northern Forest is going to be.
I think when it first started, it was incredibly ambitious. I think, when it started in 2018, the fact that we were looking to put 50 million new trees into the landscape was really felt to be something which was going to mean a step change was required. I think what we've seen in recent years with the recognition of climate change and the need to tackle that, as well as nature loss, it now looks like it was a forerunner to something even bigger. So I think it's a really exciting programme which is showing you how to do it at a time when we really need to scale up the amount of woods and trees that we have across the UK.
50 million of anything sounds a huge number. Can you just sort of set it in context?
I think it's the biggest woodland landscape programme in the UK, and I think that really sets the signal for what we need to do more of. So, what I would see success as being is the Northern Forest being alongside some other big landscape activities that happen across the UK, putting woods and trees back into where people need them, where they can provide the benefits that you get from such a valuable and beautiful asset.
And so 50 million trees is the target. Where are you in this process?
Well, 2 years in, we're at 2 million trees and we are scaling up. So we've seen trees go into the streets of some of our major cities in the north, as well as all the way up the hill into some of the big moorland areas where actually there's not been a lot of tree cover in the past. I think the key thing for the Northern Forest is it starts out from a very low base. So it only has about 7.6% woodland cover at the moment against a UK average of 13%. And we know that to tackle climate change and to tackle the nature crisis that we face, we need to see tree cover to go to around 19%. So you can see that there is a huge job to be done, as well as a huge opportunity. So it's not, as you say, a contiguous area of woodland where the squirrel in Liverpool can hop across a tree and never touch the ground until they get to Hull. But actually, that's something that we want to start trying to create. We want to connect the landscape much better, and there's no better way than doing that with trees. So this is about the trees that people will have in their gardens. It'll be about the trees that they have in the suburbs and in the farms and the rural areas around the Northern Forest. In connecting those, what we will do is we'll make it more resilient, and it will deliver all the benefits for both people and nature. So it will sequester carbon, it will alleviate flooding, it will create the clean air and clean water that we need, and it will also deliver for the homes that our very precious nature requires.
But I always thought that the huge benefit of forestry is that it is an area where you get scale, where animals can say, this is our environment. If you're just planting a tree in someone's road outside their house and it happened to be in the north of the country, isn't that sort of limited value?
No, not at all. I think it's about diversity of approaches. So we will see significant woodlands. The Woodland Trust benefits from having land in the Northern Forest and some very special places like the likes of Smithills, but we recognise that we have to operate in partnership. And the tree at the end of the road or the tree in the garden gives a real connection for people. And I often talk about trees being nature's most powerful weapon in the fight against climate change and nature loss. And that's not just because of what the tree does in the things like carbon capture and providing the homes for wildlife, etc. There's a connection to people. And trees give people a real opportunity to play an active role in that fight against those things. And in doing so, I think we provide them with hope. And so therefore, we shouldn't underestimate the value of having people plant trees themselves and to own the Northern Forest. I think often in the face of some very challenging environmental issues, people can feel that their contribution can't make the ultimate difference. I think what we're saying is actually you can, because you are part of that bigger picture. The things that you will do will add to the things that others in your area will do and beyond, and it will create a Northern Forest for everybody. And there are 13 million people who live in the north of England who can benefit directly from the actions that those individuals take, as well as the Woodland Trust and our partners.
It's clear from talking to you that you feel this can be a vehicle to help people get involved. I just wonder what your views are on this, almost the big issue of the environment, in that we keep hearing these doomsday predictions about how terrible things are, and whether you feel that has been counterproductive or not, whether you feel people just go, it's all going to hell in a handbasket, I can't do anything, let's not get involved. It's a difficult place to place the argument, isn't it? Whether you're too pessimistic, almost I fear that people just despair and turn away. What's your take on that?
I think it's a real risk, and I think we have to be honest with people that things are, we are in emergency sort of mode at the moment, so we're having to deal with and make decisions today that are going to impact for the future. And so I don't think we can shy away from that, but I think we have to balance that with giving people hope. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm really optimistic about that we can turn this around and we can restore nature and we can tackle climate change. I'm incredibly optimistic. I think, we've created an emergency tree plan, and I think it's for us as an organisation that is almost entering the 50 millionth tree that we've planted in our existence, to bring that expertise to bear and say, actually, these are the policies that we need, this is the practice that we need, and we have the experience to help shape those going forward.
Well, I'm back on a woodland path. Now, one of the perhaps unique things I think about this forest, this northern forest, is that it defies expectations. As we've been hearing, the northern forest really isn't about a single place. It's not like the other forests we visited in this series of podcasts. It's about more than that. It's about our relationship with trees. And I hope I don't sound too grand when I'm saying that. It's more important than any single bit of land. It's about how we can all make a difference, about how planting a tree in your garden, or taking part in a Woodland Trust planting session, or supporting organisations like City of Trees, the Woodland Trust and others, how all of that can bring trees into our everyday lives, and how we can benefit from that emotionally, and how the environment can benefit, and how the animals and the birds and everyone can benefit from that. More than 80% of us live not in forests, but in cities. 80% of us live in cities. So bringing trees into those cities is crucial if we're going to create connections between most of us and the natural world. It also means that we're not powerless to make change ourselves. It means we can all, you and me, we can all make a difference. It means there is hope for the natural world and our place in it. What was it? 50 million trees to plant in the northern forest. Loads are already in the ground. But of course, every tree counts.
Thank you for listening to the Woodland Trust Woodland Walks with Adam Shaw. Join us next month when Adam will be taking another walk in the company of Woodland Trust staff, partners and volunteers. Don't forget to subscribe to the series on iTunes or wherever you're listening to us, and do give us a review and a rating. And why not send us a recording of your favourite woodland walk to be included in a future podcast? Keep it to a maximum of 5 minutes, and please tell us what makes your woodland walk special. Or send us an email with details of your favourite walk and what makes it special to you. Send any audio files to podcast@woodlandtrust.org.uk. We look forward to hearing from you.